Caution! Brace yourself for the shocking and terrifying footage of monstrous flash floods that unfolded with devastating consequences. In this gripping video, we bring you a harrowing account of a catastrophic event where emergency evacuation proved to be tragically too late. Imagine a peaceful landscape that suddenly turns into a wild river with towering waves that crash through streets, destroy buildings, and wash away anything in their path. Witness the sheer power and ferocity of nature unleashed as these relentless floods engulfed everything in their path. This is a stark reminder of the urgent need for preparedness and the importance of taking swift action in the face of natural disasters. Do you want to see what went wrong in Rapid City and in Kedarnath? Great Mississippi. The Great Mississippi Flood of 1927 was one of the worst natural tragedies in the history of the United States. It was caused by heavy rain and melting snow, which led to floods all along the Mississippi River and its branches. Several states, including Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, were hit by the flood. During this disaster, the floods broke through the levees and rushed over the riverbanks, flooding large areas of land. Towns, farms, and other facilities were flooded, forcing hundreds of thousands of people to leave their homes and causing serious damage to crops and property. Damages were believed to be more than $1 billion at the time, which is a huge amount. The Great Mississippi Flood could have been a lot less bad if people had left in an emergency. Early evacuation orders and good communication systems could have given people time to move to higher ground or find cover in a safer place. Evacuation attempts could have saved lives and kept people from getting hurt if they had been made. Also, if people had left sooner, it would have been easier for rescue and aid workers to do their jobs. It would have let emergency workers focus on more important tasks, like rescuing people who were stuck, giving medical help, and getting necessary supplies to the areas that were hit. Also, having well-thought-out evacuation plans and infrastructure like elevated evacuation routes, marked shelters, and good transportation systems could have made it easier for people to leave flood-prone areas in a safe and orderly way. This would have cut down on chaos and confusion and made sure that people who needed to be evacuated quickly and safely, like the old, children, and people with disabilities, could do so. The Great Mississippi Flood of 1927 showed how important it was to have better ways to deal with floods, such as early warning systems. It led to changes in flood control policies and the building of new infrastructure like the Mississippi River and Tributaries Project, which was built to better manage and control river flows and reduce the risk of flooding in the future. By looking at historical events like the Great Mississippi Flood, we can see how important it is to take early emergency evacuation steps to save lives, limit damage to property, and make communities more resilient in the face of deadly floods. Queensland. One of the worst floods happened in Queensland, and it still frightens people when they think back to this disastrous event. Let's talk about this in more depth. The Queensland floods of 2010-2011 was a series of very horrifying floods in Queensland, Australia, that happened after a long time of heavy rain. The floods hit a large area, including many towns and cities across the state. Brisbane, the state capital, was one of the hardest hit places. The floods were caused by a number of things, including heavy rains caused by the La Nina weather pattern, ground that was already wet from earlier rains, and the shape of the land, which made it easy for water to build up quickly. The heavy rain caused rivers to overflow, flash floods, and drowning of neighborhoods, businesses, and infrastructure. If the emergency escape had happened sooner, it could have helped lessen the damage caused by the Queensland floods by a lot. Early warning systems are a key part of being able to handle emergencies well. If accurate and timely flood warnings had been sent out, people could have known the danger was coming and left for safer places in plenty of time. People would have had enough time to get their things together, secure their homes, and move to higher ground or a marked evacuation center if they had been told to leave early. Evacuation orders would have made it easier for people to move in a safe and organized way, reducing the risk of being trapped or left behind by quickly rising floods. Early escape would have also eased the stress on emergency services and given them more time to do important things like rescue people who couldn't leave, give medical help, and coordinate relief efforts. Also, it would have made it possible to send resources and people to help vulnerable people, like the old, children, and people with disabilities, so they could be evacuated safely and get the care they needed. The Queensland floods showed how important it is to spend money on flood prevention measures like better flood maps, early warning systems, and educating the public about flood risks and how to evacuate. After the event, attempts have been made to improve flood forecasting and communication systems so that people can get timely and accurate information. Early emergency evacuation and thorough flood management strategies like building infrastructure to protect against floods and planning land use can help reduce the damage from floods and protect people and property. The Queensland flood showed how important it is to take steps ahead of time to make communities more resilient to bad weather. Rapid City. In Rapid City, the evacuation system was not working, yet this came too late for many people's lives. The Rapid City flood of 1972 was a flash flood in Rapid City, South Dakota, that caused a lot of damage. On the night of June 9, a lot of rain fell in the Black Hills area. Because the area is hilly and the ground was already wet, the water ran off quickly. Because of this, there was a terrible flash storm that caught the city by surprise. The city's drainage systems couldn't handle the fast and heavy rain, so creeks and streams grew quickly. The floods rushed through narrow valleys and came together to form a deadly river that swept through residential areas and the downtown area of Rapid City. The flash flood caught many people by surprise because it happened late at night when most people were asleep and didn't know that danger was coming. The Rapid City flood caused terrible things to happen. The flood killed 238 people and did a lot of harm to homes, businesses, and public buildings. Many people were stuck in their homes or cars and couldn't get out because the water was rising quickly. Getting out of Rapid City early could have saved a lot of lives during the flood. If there had been accurate and timely flood warnings, people would have known the danger was close and been told to move to higher land or safe areas. People would have been able to leave their homes and find safety in places that weren't likely to flood if they had been told to leave early. If evacuation efforts had started sooner, people would have been able to leave before the floods got too high. This would have kept people from getting stuck in the strong currents or being swept away by them. Early evacuation could have also made sure that the old, children, and people with mobility problems who might have needed extra help were able to leave safely. Also, if people had left early, rescue workers would have been able to focus on search and rescue instead of trying to find people who were stuck and get them out. It would have made it possible for people to leave quickly and in a planned way, lowering panic and confusion among those affected. The 1972 Rapid City flood woke people up to the need for better warning systems and emergency plans in places that are prone to flash floods. Since then, there have been improvements in meteorological forecasting, hydrological modeling, and early warning technologies, all of which aim to give communities at risk fast and accurate information. The tragic events of the Rapid City flood showed how important it is to take precautions, such as leaving early, having thorough flood management plans, and teaching the public about flood risks and how to evacuate. By learning from what has happened in the past, communities can be more prepared for flash floods and take steps to protect lives and property. Kedarnath. Many people died during the floods in Kedarnath, which could have been prevented. The 2013 Kedarnath floods were a terrible natural tragedy that happened in the Indian state of Uttarakhand. Heavy rain and cloud bursts in the area caused flash floods and landslides, which led to the accident. The town of Kedarnath, which is a famous pilgrimage site in the Himalayan mountains, was hit the hardest by the floods. During the event, the heavy rain caused the rivers and streams in the area to rise quickly, causing them to overflow their banks and cause huge flash floods. Floodwaters and rubble from landslides caused a lot of damage to the town and the area around it. Buildings, roads, and bridges were all destroyed, and strong currents trapped or carried away thousands of people. Getting out of Kedarnath early could have helped save lives and keep people from getting hurt during the floods. If there had been correct and timely weather forecasts and warnings, the local government could have told people to leave much earlier. Residents, pilgrims, and tourists would have been able to leave the area and move to higher ground or a better place. If people had been told to leave early, they would have had more time to leave and find cover before the water rose. It would have made it less likely that people would have been caught in the quick, powerful floods that killed many. People who were already in the area, like pilgrims visiting the temple, could have been led to marked evacuation centers or given safe ways to move to higher elevations. Early evacuation would have also let emergency workers and rescue teams focus on rescue and relief work instead of risky rescue tasks in dangerous conditions. It would have made sure that the right people and resources were sent to help those in need, reducing the number of accidents and deaths. For more tragic videos like this, stay with us. Strong levee systems and full emergency reaction plans.